That doesn't look right.
Okay,
Oh, well, maybe.
we got it.
She thinks we got it.
I think we got it.
Go over to your settings.
See the settings
Remember
over
to
there?
slow your comment.
Stay,
Okay, yeah.
see the settings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it?
Slow, yep, okay.
I think you're actually live, Chief. You might want to.
It's all right. As long as we're working it, it's okay.
Okay.
We-
now I
We're
go-
family here.
Okay, I gotta get out of this, back to the comments. Okay.
So for
Comments,
if
okay.
if y'all can hear me that are out there in the web world, we did have some difficulties. It kind of shut down. We had to restart it, and we had some challenges on that earlier today. So bear with me. If anyone out there is logged on already, I apologize for waiting. And second, if you can just type in and let me know that you can see it and hear it, it sounds okay. That's important to me. But first of all, thank you all for being here. This conversation is our second session today. It is I really like to gear it towards gun violence and the community's thoughts. I'll talk a little bit briefly about where we are with crime right now and try to give some updates as we move forward. But I want to hear from you on thoughts of things that you might think we could do as a city or as a police department. Things that we're doing now that you think we should continue doing, or things that you would like to see us enhance. And it doesn't just have to be police. What can other entities do in the city? What can we do as a city to address gun violence or reduce that? Now, I think sometimes it's important to get input from our community, and I'd really like to hear some ideas. I'll share with you as we go throughout the evening some things that we're doing, but I'm really interested in some ideas that you might have. So I first want to greet people that are on board. Cameron, it's good to hear from you. I haven't seen you in a while, my friend. I know you're working, and I hope you're doing well. Hope you'll be at the gala. It's important, but I totally understand. But I'm proud of you, my friend, and but I do miss you and hope to see you soon. Carrie, thank you for being here. I appreciate all that you do for the department and the community. Robin, very good. Thank you for letting me know you can hear me. That's important. Thank you. It makes me feel better. I thought we had messed something up, but it looks like we're moving in the right direction. Sherry, thank you very much. John Morgan, thank you, my friend. Appreciate that. Tiffany, thank you. Marlene, thank you for being here. Thank you very much. Price, thank you. I appreciate that. So Kelly, if you'll help me if you see some comments come in. Like I said, I had a session with the mayor today, and we had some good discussion about what we're doing in the police department, what we really need to do as a city. I think we had a couple more people join us, Kelly.
Yep.
And so let me say hello to them. Yep, from Suffolk. Yep. Kimberly, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate that. And Vanessa, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you guys are both here. Rhea, thank you. So I met with the mayor this morning in a panel. Gabe Morgan, CSB board representative, was there as well. Our sheriff, Gabe Morgan, Quincy from our day center at Four Oaks. And we just talked a little bit about issues with mental illness, and we also talked about issues with gun violence. So we just took some questions. What are we doing? What's working? What are we seeing around the country? What are lessons learned? And we just kind of wanted to have some dialogue. So it was a good session today, and I wanted to carry that on to this evening. Erica, how are you? It's good. Hope things are going well where you're at. It's good to hear from you. Hope things are good, and you're off to a good start to the summer. So currently, the police department, we this time last year we had 12 homicides in our city. We currently have 11 now. The last homicide was a double homicide that happened last week. And 2 individuals lost their lives in a business. So we've had some conversations about that particular case. We actually released some video, some footage today, some still shots of our suspect. You can see the weapon he had, and you can see kind of his physical makeup and some clothing. So we're asking if anyone that resembles anyone, or you might identify with someone, or you saw someone in the area that night dressed that way, that you'd reach out to us and let us kind of look into those things a little bit. We currently have 4 more rape cases this year than we had this time last year. Our robberies are up, but our clearances, and most of the robberies occurred earlier in the year, and we're kind of catching up now, starting to level out. Our clearance rates are well above the national average. and our aggravated assaults are down. Our burglaries are down again for about the fifth year in a row. I think that's again for officers being in the right places, citizens looking out for each other, taking ownership in their communities. We're seeing a spike in larcenies, our shopliftings, our thefts, and auto thefts were up a little bit from where we were this time last year. So we're seeing a decrease in violent crime. We've got some increase in property crime. But the ones I want to look at primarily are our homicides and our shootings. So we're currently up about 4 shootings from where we were this time last year. And we're looking at those and doing some comparisons. We have a pretty good clearance rate, but that's after the crime happens, and that's important. But I really like to focus on and what can we do before. And hopefully we'll talk about some ideas that you all have as things that we talked about earlier today, and I talked about with the mayor was being able to walk away from a confrontation, de-escalation. We talked about peer pressure and issues with social media, pushing things to a boiling point. We talked about bullying. We talked about individuals that access to firearms. We talked about making sure that we're locking our firearms up. And some people wrote in some comments about issues with gun safety. But one of the things we talked about earlier today was that a lot of the individuals that are involved in gun violence or that they're victims and suspects is they know each other. Now, I'm not saying that they're intimate, but we do have issues with domestic violence. We do have past boyfriends, past girlfriends. We have issues that break out between friends or acquaintances on social media. We have issues of groups or neighborhoods, whether it's gang type activity or group activity, or he said something, she said something, and retaliation, those type things. But a lot of it deals with confrontation. And if we're able to walk away from that or choose a different course besides picking up a firearm and firing a round. Of our 11 homicides, 5 of those are domestic related, and about four of those are ones that have happened on the street. The others have all been inside, including our double homicide that we just had recently, which is horrific. And any loss of life. Let me be clear with that. Any loss of life is horrific. So we talked a little bit about what communities can do, what citizens can do. And we'll touch base on that as we go forward, but I'd really like to hear some issues and thoughts, ideas that the audience might have tonight. So Keith, I see you. Rhea, I got her today already,
Okay.
and I got Erica. So I want to go down to Keith. Good evening, Chief. Traffic division coming back will happen soon. I see officers at crashes, but few stopping cars through the city. Oh wait, that's Lucas. Lucas, all right, so that's perfect. So the first issue we've got is traffic, and that's an excellent point, Lucas. I need to see Keith for a minute. Oh, okay,
Got
good.
it.
Yeah, Keith, I first of all, thank you for the invite to being up in Ashland. Thank you for allowing us to come up there and do some recruiting. Scroll back up for me. Project Exile, you can speak to the impact of Richmond years ago. So Project Exile was a platform where there was mandatory sentences for individuals that were involved in gun violence or that were a convicted felon or were in possession of a certain amount of illegal narcotics or type of narcotic and a firearm that gave a mandatory 5 years. So that did have some impact. There were some issues that some people felt it created on the back end, and I understand their concerns. But Project Exile was effective for the time that we used it. And we have talked about that. We've had some conversations about a year ago about that particular program and did it get the results that we wanted. So Keith, that's a great point. It's a great point. It's dealing with penalties and sentencing for those that choose to partake in gun violence. Lucas, your point about traffic I think is excellent. So we had to absorb our traffic division into our patrol operations because of staffing issues. We've been hit like some of the other departments. However, we have 26 recruits in the academy class that will graduate in August. We have another 24 that will graduate in October, and we're hiring for a new class that will start in August and graduate at the end of January, 1st of February. So that my hope is that will allow us to bring that traffic division back. I think the traffic enforcement is an excellent tool. You know, if you're focusing on traffic where you have your high impact intersections or areas where you have where you're seeing spikes or trends in crime. If you're doing traffic enforcement on the perimeter of that community and addressing issues inside that community, and because, quite frankly, sometimes individuals who partake in violence will select a neighborhood where that might be have more challenges, and they feel like maybe the police aren't around as much, or that people won't call and report things. So we will see individuals come from other areas to a particular neighborhood and try to do their business, if you will. So traffic enforcement is a great tool, and I do want to bring that back. That was something we started, and we had to kind of absorb it into patrol because of staffing issues. But I think it is extremely valuable, and it is one of the biggest complaints that we get is speeding. We know that Newport News has two main thoroughfares, Warwick and Jefferson Avenue. If we have traffic accidents on either, it kind of shuts things down, especially with some of the shipyard traffic that moves out and comes in. So that's a great point, and that is on our agenda to bring back as soon as we get the staffing back for it. But it is very, very valuable.
I'm just hidden. I think it's just Facebook hid it. 'Cause of
Okay.
the word.
Killen Creek residents here. All right, scroll back up. Let me see what it says just for a minute. See if we can open it. Killen Creek residents here praying that similar. Yeah, I appreciate that, Candace. That I will tell you, it was a tough night for me too to respond and be briefed on what had happened inside. Seeing family members show up, and like I said, any loss of life is tragic. There had been a traffic accident we had with some teenagers a little earlier in the week, and those things they just affect communities and families and neighborhoods. They affect our city. They affect our officers, family members, and so I join you. I join you in prayer, and I think gun violence is just the topic right now that is really gripping the country, not just here in Newport News, but across our state. When you talk to other jurisdictions and ideas, and what are some new innovative ways that we can address gun violence? What are some things that have worked in the past that we need to focus on? And I think prayer is one of them. Right? There's a lot of people that contact me and let me know that they're praying for this department, praying for our city, praying for our officers, and I am a man of faith, and I think that goes a long way. I think that we're blessed here, but I think that turning to our faith leaders as well, and our clergy plays a huge role in us moving forward. And I tell you, I get a lot of support from them, and it's very, very appreciative. So I agree with you, and I join the community in Killen Creek and just praying that my hope is that the individual responsible will come forward, but I also hope that others may have some information they can share with us to help us solve that crime. So thank you, Candace. That's a great post. John Morgan, have you all considered patrol by foot downtown or in higher crime areas? We just froze up a little bit, but I think we got you back, John. Scrolling down a little bit more. Patrol, perhaps demonstration of damage bullets can physically do to humans or animals, some type of community event conducted by police where police discharge a firearm into it. Wow. Well, I will tell you, John, but I feel you on shock and awe can have an effect. I don't know that we'd go as far as discharging a firearm into a carcass. I think you can get the same effect by seeing family members that are just shaken to the core because they lost someone. Your comment on foot patrols is very well taken. We have selected 3 neighborhoods this year that we saw spikes in violence last year that we're focusing on all year long, and foot patrols and bike patrols and vehicle patrols in the winter. One neighborhood in the south, one in the central, one in the north. I think foot patrols are extremely effective. It builds great relationships and builds continuity with the community. I wish that I had some ability to do that. Some of it we can do and backfill with overtime positions, but that only goes so far. So it is an issue when our staffing gets up. So, we may only be down 18 officers for our department, for a 472-man police department. But 26 and 24 in the academy is what, 50? That's 50, right? 26. That's 50 officers that aren't on the street yet. Now they're coming. They're coming. We've got plans for when they come. We're filling some vacancies, but most of those positions will stay locked into patrol to increase the street numbers on the street, increase the strength numbers on the street. But there are some entities, there's an aggravated assault detective, some positions in technology, special victims that we want to make sure that we have filled to respond to crime once it happens. But I still believe the best deterrent is trying to be proactive and address crime before it happens. And that's building relationships with our communities, interacting with our youth. But yeah, the walking beats, I've seen that in my past agency and here. They are very, very effective. And I can't put 2 people walking in every community, but we certainly can select some. We have gone with the process of selecting 3 different neighborhoods to focus on all year long, and walking is a component of that. In fact, on Friday, especially during the summer, on Fridays around 4 or 4:30, I select a neighborhood and walk that neighborhood myself. It allows me to interact a little bit with community. Sometimes citizens will come out and walk with me. Sometimes they'll open their door and wave. Other times they don't. But that's okay. It allows me to get out. I don't ask officers to go with me. If they want to, that's fine. But I've done 2 so far, and probably will be in courthouse green this coming Friday. I wasn't able to do that last Friday because of the double homicide, and I wanted to walk in that neighborhood. But most likely it'll be in courthouse green. We post that on our Facebook page, but it is important, and I really that's a great tool. That's a great idea. Ashley, good evening. I'm a good family friend of Logan Thomas, and is there any info on race, height, respect to the double homicide? So actually, we put out, I don't know if you saw earlier, we released some photos, some footage. I want people to kind of gauge that and take a look for themselves. I don't want to mislead anyone. I want them to see those things first, see that footage first, see if you recognize. Kind of hard to make out some of the facial, but size, weight, body build there, and clothing that might spark that maybe someone that you saw earlier in the evening or after or later that day or have seen before, those mannerisms. But we did put that out. I think that's on our Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. We released it to the media this afternoon. I know the detectives are still working leads and still doing interviews and looking for bits and pieces of information. So I'll just take this opportunity for this crime, this horrific crime of a double murder, double homicide, and any other that individuals think they may know something or have heard something. I just encourage you to report it. We have a tip line here, or text a tip, or you call communications, call the police department, but share that information with us. I'd rather it be nothing, and after we look into it, than it be a missing piece that we're looking for and no one called, thinking, well, someone else will call. And so it's very, very important. So I appreciate that. And yeah, it's just very, very tragic. So Laura, we just did a little bit of update on the 7-Eleven. I want to go back to John Morgan. Maybe free firearm safety training courses performed by officers to teach. I like that. The idea of eliminating guns from the streets. It seems impossible, but the idea of execute, that's another great idea. The mayor and I talked about that. He is a big proponent of gun safety. We talked about making sure that firearms in our homes, right? That one, if they are, making sure that they're secured, that we're utilizing gun locks, that we have them up out of the way, out of the range of young people, of children. We get quite a bit of accidental shootings in our city. We just had one over the weekend where an individual had a firearm and it went off and struck a young man. So a lockbox out of the way. You don't have to let everyone know where that firearm is. Making sure that it's secured, a gun lock, if you will. But I'll also say, just being, if the firearm is stolen, and we have firearms stolen out of vehicles, we have firearms stolen out of homes, to make sure that you report that. Come across individuals that, well, I didn't think it was any big deal. I didn't have the paperwork. I didn't have this. I didn't have that. But tracking that firearm, firearms have serial numbers, most of them, unless they're altered. It can take us back where that gun was purchased and who was the owner, when was it stolen. Those timelines are important to us, and they can help in those little pieces can help in an investigation. So you're exactly right. And if we have some individuals we partner with to talk about gun safety, the police department can certainly do that. So that I think that starting in the home, I think is great. So John Morgan, those are 2 great ideas. Those are excellent. I appreciate that. Ken, great question. Wondering the same.
Okay.
Oh, the update. Yeah, we did the okay. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I'm humbled to work in this department, in this community. This is just a fantastic city. I think we're very progressive. I think that one of the things that sets us apart is that we're working together and different entities coming together for the common good. And I don't think we're going to address gun violence just through police. I think it has to be multiple resources and individuals that might have making threats or posts on social media. We'll make sure that we're following up on those, and citizens that see those posts that we may not. calling us and alerting us, letting us know. One of the best supporters we have with social media posts comes from youth, comes from our kids. So taking that information, whether it's something about a school or something in the neighborhood, that's very, very, very important that we get that information and act on it. But I appreciate your comments. Thank you. I don't know about great chief thing, but I tell you, I do care about this city, this community. I just think this is a fantastic city to raise a family and to live in. We have a lot to offer, and to address gun violence, I think we have to do it as a team, right? We have to do it. Everyone plays a role, something that we want to change. Now, can we ever eliminate it and get rid of it? I don't know, but I know we can reduce the probability of incidents occurring if we're all looking out. It starts from where we live, taking ownership of our house, our yard, in front of our street. Whether we're doing that through Ring cameras or being engaged with our neighbors, sharing information. If something looks out of place, calling us and letting us investigate that. Making sure that we're addressing issues with mental illness, health and well-being of our students, and individuals are posting things that hear about fights or conversations that go on in a neighborhood or in hallways at a school or even in a business. If we hear domestic violence happening by the apartment next door to us or upstairs or below, that we're getting involved and not just, well, it always happens and I'm not going to bother the police. I think I'm bothered. You're not. You're not. You're showing that you're concerned, and that citizens getting involved, I think is going to be just going to make a huge, huge difference. Tony, Chief, with the Killing Creek incident, I noticed you chose inside footage. Is there any outside footage you can share without compromising the investigation? Tony, that's a great question. We looked at what we had and we felt that the inside footage was the best at the time. There may be other footage released later on, but we met with the detective to make sure that they helped select what was best. And right now we felt like that was the best footage. There's certainly better lighting inside. There may be some things outside, but we felt like you had the best shot of the individual's body standing up and moving from inside the business as opposed to outside. But that's a great question. Do you think Killing Creek and now, right now we're not seeing any links to any other cases. There were a couple that we looked at, but we do that by physical evidence, casings that are recovered, information from individuals and so that we talk to or that live in the neighborhood. So right now, we don't see as of yet. I'm not going to rule anything out, but as of yet, I'm not showing anything that shows any type of correlation. Keith asked, are you just curious, what was the response time for the police to arrive on scene when ShotSpotter detects gunshots? Well, Keith, I'll tell you, ShotSpotter is a great, we're getting ready to add another area. Officers get that notification right away, sometimes even before dispatch can dispatch the call. So it helps us that we're able to get there. I think it showed that we get there about a minute sooner than it would be if one is called in. But one of the problems is we were seeing sometimes with shots fired that community members weren't even calling in. So if we didn't get that activation, then we wouldn't even hear that. So we have a 3-mile radius that we cover in our southeast community, and we're getting ready to add another 3 miles in the northern part of the city. I think it's been very valuable, but I think you get out of it what you put into it. And you know as well as I do that if there's shots that are fired in the 300 block of X Street, and somebody in the 100 block hears that and calls, officers will go to that 100 block where the call came from. We'll drive that area. And if we come from the 400 block down to the 100 block, we might drive right through the 300 block where it happened and head to the. So it triangulates. It gives us a quick reaction. It's pretty accurate on how many shots were fired, type of ammunition. So it's been very beneficial. Now, in our department, we've really invested heavily in technology. So like I said, we're going to add a second component, another area. But every officer here is given a department cell phone, and they can get that ShotSpotter notification through their cell phone or through their mobile data computer in their vehicle. So it's good technology that we've had for a while. I think we were the first in the state. I know others are looking at it or have implemented it. I think Virginia Beach has implemented it, but it's been very good for us. So the response time is much quicker, and it often, if we don't get calls, we're notified by the technology. And it concerns to me, and just being frank with you, it concerns me that when individuals don't call, whether they think someone else will, whether they don't want to get involved, whether they don't have confidence that anything will be done, any of those issues concern me. So it's been a good tool for us. John Morgan, no, I appreciate you, man. You had some great points. Kelly's taking some notes for me, and those are both excellent points, man. So I appreciate you, sir. Sherry, Sherry, I appreciate that. I do. You know, I will tell you, gun violence disrupts things. You know, not only for the victim's family, the community, that neighborhood, our city, officers who respond to those calls, but also the suspect's family, right? And I will tell you that people that partake in gun violence, you know, there aren't too many places you end up. With our clearance rate, prison, jail, incarceration, in a hospital, confined to a wheelchair or even worse. The pain that's inflicted on family members of the victim, pain that's inflicted on the family members of the suspect, and God forbid, right, in our cemeteries, where you have taken someone's life, and it becomes perpetual. Well, he shot at my friend, I'm going to shoot at him. This thing on social media is, you know, I can't take. I'm not going to be bullied anymore. You know, there are always venues. There are always venues of help and people to reach out to. But what can't be the answer is I'm going to bend down and pick up this firearm and pull this trigger. Because once you do that, you can't take that round back. You can't take that round back. And there's a better way. And for individuals out there that partake in firearms, I'm telling you, your life matters. That's not the answer. It takes a bigger and more intelligent person to walk away and not make a horrible decision that you can't change or reverse by an action out of anger than it does to walk away from that and ask someone for help. You know, teachers, I'm being bullied. Neighbor, I'm in a domestic violence situation. Let me talk to you, pastor, about something going on. Police, this is what I'm hearing in my community, in my neighborhood. Human services, can you help me? I'm in, whatever it might be, right? There's always a better path. There's always a better path than picking up that firearm and trying to handle a situation through violence, because all it does is increase more violence. Sherry, again, thank you. Candace, I love the compassion for the communities. Thank you. Candace, I appreciate that. That means a lot. I appreciate that. I'm going to scroll down. Lauren, thank you, Lauren. I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's see one more. Give me just a second.
Yeah.
We locked up just a little bit. Really appreciate the information, the interaction with, with the community. We'll get that in just a minute.
13 messages.
Okay, great. 13 more that have come in. Yeah. So what happens sometimes on the Facebook system is when a lot of messages come through, it locks up. I'm in no hurry. I'll spend the evening with you, and we'll get through these. If I miss someone, charge it to my heart, right, or maybe my eyes, right, that it moves so fast. But I want to try to hit each question or comment that comes through. Really appreciate the information and interaction with the community. I'm the pastor of Crossroads in Newport. Wow. Yes, we're available to you in the department whenever capacity we can assist. Praying for you all. See, that is what I'm talking about. Pat, I appreciate that. I appreciate what you do in the community congregation. I appreciate what you do for this department. And every prayer that you offer up, it matters. And just for that type of collaboration, that means the world to me. Pastor, I appreciate that and look forward to doing anything that we can together. Thank you for taking the time to message in. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Chief, sending love from Reagan Grace. Wow. Devin, thank you, my friend. She what's it say? She recorded on this video.
She
It says,
recognized
oh,
you.
she recognized me.
It says
Wow. Well, I will tell you, if she's watching, Reagan, I hope you're doing well. That's a wave from me, from my heart. Thinking about you. It was great to see you last month. I appreciate you. And, man, Devin, I appreciate you taking the time. That means a lot. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Let's see what we got. That's okay. So I want to let some of that cycle through. You know, I was earlier today, I was looking at some comments from other communities, other cities, and some things that they're doing. I just got back from a conference in San Francisco. There were about 300 police chiefs that we interacted with and talked with, and it was to hear some different things that they're doing. And I like to see that we're in line with that. I like to think that we're pretty progressive here as our investment in technology, our investment in recruiting. that we're keeping those doors open, continue to bring officers in, that people are coming to this department. I think we get some of the best training here. I think we have great community relationships. And community policing isn't something we just talk about. It's something that we do. And not one event here, one event there. It's continual. So out of 472 officers, we should have 472 community-oriented police problem-solving officers, including the chief of police. I think that starts at the top. We build those relationships, we share information, we talk to each other. And we all want to see things better for our community, our city, better for our youth, right? Better for the people who live in our neighborhoods and live, work, and play here. So that those things matter. Ashley, thank you very much. That means a lot. Thank you, Chief. Great asset. Chief Brandon Creswell, he truly cares as well. Kimberly does. I spent some time with Chief Creswell today, and we brainstorm a lot about myself, he and Chief Grinstead, we're all sitting around the table today, and what's the next thing? What are we missing? What's new out there? And I will tell you, Chief Creswell came today with 2 ideas on technology. It's expensive. Technology is expensive. So we look at ways that we can partner with other entities. We look at ways that we can get assistance through some grants. I had a conversation with the Attorney General's office today. Just brainstorming, talking about what else is out there that I haven't thought of or that we haven't thought of, or where's some way we can invest. We can never just sit back and say, we got it, right? We started looking in March of how we were going to address things in the summer. At the end, well, probably end of July, we'll start looking at how we're going to work in October, November, and December as we move into the latter part of the year. But yes, I'm blessed to have fantastic people to work with that are around me. It just can't be one person coming up with the ideas. And Chief Creswell, I think, shares my passion for bringing in technology and how do we solve cases better. What are ways we can better serve our community, police our community, engage with our community. And I want citizens to know the technology we have and see how it works. But he's instrumental in what we're doing with our detective division. And yes, myself, Chief Hires, Chief Creswell, Chief Grinstead, sometimes sitting around looking at what other departments are doing. Okay, we've done that, or here's something a Department X is doing, and these are some of the challenges they had. So if they did this, we should go this route. Or this department talks about this program, but they had other entities buy in, and those are great examples. So what works and things that we could try. And I don't want to just say, oh no, that's not going to work here. Let's try it. Let's see what it is. But I also got to remember to be cost efficient with the city dollars that we have. But while I'm there, before I read Marlene, I will tell you this: the mayor and city council, our city manager Cindy Roth, Bo Clayton, and Alan Archer are very, very, very supportive of what we're trying to do in the police department. They realize that we can't do it all, but they are very, very supportive in using technology, bringing more officers into the department, thinking outside the box to address, as we're going through the building up, rebuilding some of the apartment complexes, the C&I grant that we got for down in the southeast community there. All those things, right? Environmental design, environmental enforcement, meaning that we're addressing buildings that have been abandoned and are left open where people can come in, whether it's prostitution, illegal narcotics, store firearms. We're getting those buildings boarded up. So we're picking up trash that may be at an intersection where kids are catching the bus and we're going to school. That we're addressing blight in our communities. How a neighborhood sees itself sometimes depicts how they will treat themselves. So it's important that we address those things across the board. I work at a school that has police presence. I've heard some people do not want to have their children feel like they are in a prison atmosphere. I strongly feel that the presence can have an effect on someone's actions. How it's represented, just my opinion. I think that's a great opinion. And I will tell you, we have a program, a young adult police commissioner program. It's about, there's four students from each school, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. So we work with about 24, 25 students, and we talk about those things. Should officers be in school or should they not? I don't want our officers in school to make sure kids are out in the hallway and that they're not on their cell phone and they're not talking. We're there to build relationships and to provide safety, right, to interact. But I will tell you, I hear a lot back and forth about should officers be in the school. I want to, I know how I feel about it. I think it is a benefit. but I'm open to different opinions. I just want to make sure that when we have those discussions, that we include the youth that are in the school, how they feel. I think that's important. So I don't want people to feel like they're in a prison, but I do want people to be able to interact, and I want them to know that their safety matters. And I would have never thought that we would have needed it or utilized it. We had our own school shooting here in Newport News inside the school. Two individuals got into an altercation, and one displayed a firearm and fired rounds. And I will tell you, it was very traumatic for the students. And that school resource officer, his heart, the relationship they had, I think it's been very beneficial for us. Here in the city of Newport News, I feel like it has been beneficial. I see how those kids interact with those school resource officers. Matter of fact, the Mitchellville girls basketball team won the state, right? And when they were going up to Richmond to play in the final game, the state championship, they asked if their school resource officer could go with them. And that floored me, right? That floored me. But I don't want to talk for any other department or any other city. I think it is how you construct it and make sure that there's direct guidelines of, I don't want it to be a school to prison pipeline. I want school to handle the discipline problems there. But I do think it's important for relationships and for a peace of mind for some. But I am certainly open to your comments and opinions. And I'll tell you, it's just a good discussion. I worry sometimes we have those discussions and we don't include the youth of that particular school, how they feel. But yeah, it's great conversation. What about the new gel guns? So I've heard of ghost guns. You have to help me with the gel guns. I'm not sure I'm familiar with that. Ghost guns are firearms that are ordered that come without a serial number, that put together. I know there's been some new legislation about that. We've seen some of that, not a great deal, but we've seen some of that. I know that other departments are seeing more and more of it. When you say gel guns, though, I'm not 100% sure what that is. Jacob, what is the biggest thing you think the department could improve on? Well, Jacob, I think the thing that we have to continue to improve on is our image and our relationship with communities. There are 472 officers in Newport News. This is a city of 187,000. So residents who live, I can't put an officer in every street 24 hours a day. We respond to calls for service. Citizens call in, and when they're not called, we're trying to build relationships with communities or be in areas where we've seen spikes in violence, or looking for individuals who have warrants on file that have committed a crime. But citizens who live in areas, right, who do live there, that come and go, and they spend the majority of their time, or at least half their time, in their house. If they police that house and that front yard, backyard, and their the section of the street in front of their residence, I think that's important. And I want citizens to feel like they can call the police and they'll get a response, that we'll interact with them. We're not going to come to the door, knock on the door, and oh, you're the one that called. That's not how it works. There's so many different ways you can alert us. But I think if citizens take back their communities, I will tell you, individuals are not going to commit crimes in neighborhoods where they know the citizens are going to call the police. Now, I'm not going to say no crime will ever occur there, but they're less likely. That's why I want to make sure that citizens know that we care, that they matter to me, that community, those neighborhoods matter. It doesn't matter to me what your zip code is or what your job is or where you live. It doesn't matter to me if you live in a one bedroom apartment or a 10 bedroom mansion. It doesn't make any difference. Those areas, right? Kids that live there, families that live there, they matter. So I believe that's probably the best crime fighting strategy we have is citizen involvement and engagement. So what can we improve on? I would continue to stress community policing. It matters. How we interact with our community and our citizens, and we build trust. The other thing is to continue to develop and build on and utilize technology. What's out there? What can help us? Gun detection, being able to remove fingerprints from shell casings that are picked up, addressing issues or things going back and forth that can lead to violence on social media. Those are things that I want us to continue to develop on and continue training in our detectives, how we interview, how we do investigations. Like I said, our clearance rates, I think, are some of the best in the state, but I want all of our officers to have that, continuing to recruit the best people we can. There's not the number of people coming into police departments that there used to be. So you look for the best that we can get and give them the best training and encourage them, but continue to develop through the years. so those things, talking about this profession, all those things I would say that I want to continue to improve on and work on and stay a focus of this department. That's a great question, my friend. Karen, my heart goes out. Karen, I agree with you. It was heart wrenching. We've touched a base on that a little bit, and yeah, that's a great point. I join you, Karen. I feel the same, and so do the officers that responded. That community, I'm telling you, it's a very, very strong community. Teresa, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that. Karen, stronger gun laws. There's no reason for us to carry AK-47 military only. Yeah, Karen, I've heard a lot of talk about that. I understand the Second Amendment. I understand gun rights. And let me say this. I think there has to be, I don't want to be political, but I think we have to meet in the middle. I think we have to address individuals who decide to pick up a firearm and use it to harm and hurt other people. I think they should know that the law is going to be very, very heavy to penalize them for what they do. But I also think on the other side that we need to regulate. Are we doing background checks? What kind of firearms are we allowing? What kind of firearms are on the market? What is that firearm actually used for? What's its intent? And then for those individuals that need help, that might be going through some situations or through whether they feel like they're being bullied, issues with social media, that we're seeing aggressive behavior, conversations among youth, Facebook posts, social media posts, comments that are being said, repeated calls to domestic violence, to give as much help as we can to individuals who need it, to make sure that we have good, accurate laws and good background checks and good policies with firearms, and then to address those that decide to pick up that firearm and use it to inflict harm. I think that has to be a combination. I don't think there's one lane that will fix it all. I think it has to be a combination. So that's a great point. Am I back with Kimberly, or did I miss anybody?
You're back with Kimberly.
There's a lot of pain in our family from our loss, but I appreciate everything you do. Kimberly, I understand. I'll tell you, I've been doing this job 30 years. It doesn't get easier. When I meet new recruits and we sit in my office, one of the things we talk about is gun violence. And I tell them that in some scenes that community is going to be very frustrated with the police because we weren't there quick enough and they don't think that we care. In other scenes, family members are going to wrap their arms around you and cry on their shoulder. So I understand those emotions. Every loss of life is traumatic, whether it's a traffic fatality, a shooting, a homicide. So Kim, I totally get it, and my heart goes out. I'm with you. I appreciate that. I worked in retail firearms prior to my current position. I ran background checks on gun sales. Many times I'd get people denied by the state police background check for purchasing a firearm, but the state police would not show up to investigate why they got denied. Many times, due to manpower issues, does the Nnpd investigate background check denials if the state police does not? Keith, that's a great question. We certainly trace firearms, time to crime. We work with our ATF. We have a lot of technology to address those things. But if the state denies if I'm reading that correctly, does Nnpd investigate background checks denials if the state police does not? Probably not so much, Keith. If the state police denies it, we may be notified why, but I don't know that we're doing those investigations at our level. I think those are coming through with the gun laws and the state investigations. So it's a good question. I could look into that. That's a good question. Scroll back up for me a little bit, Kelly. Karen, thank you. I appreciate that. Mary, God bless. I'm always praying for you and the team. Mary, thank you. That means a lot. Miss Jackson, it's good to hear from you. I hope you're doing well. We miss you here. But I wish you all the best, but I definitely miss you. Is it Timothy Turner?
Yeah.
Tim, I'm going to get to you in just a second. We got to scroll up just a tad once it unfreezes. I really appreciate the comments that are coming in. It's a really good discussion. You know what it tells me? It tells me that people are concerned, that people are caring. I think that's a huge hurdle. That it is all of our issues, right? It can't just be solved by the police department. That we detect issues early on and try to address things before they cause a situation, or a situation happens, and like we saw in Kiln Creek, and that double homicide or any homicide that we have, right? It just matters, and we got it. We can't just throw our hands up and give up, and this is the way it's going to be. And I don't want that. When I start feeling like that, it's time for me to walk away. I think that that we can make a lot of inroads. There's a lot of ways that we can focus on gun violence and people get involved. It becomes a concern of our whole city, right? All the entities, all the resources that we have, looking out for each other, all those things are important. Tim, was wondering if one of the victims was supposedly to testify in court Friday. For some reason, that was floating around on Facebook. Thank you for your service. Tim, I don't think, if you're talking about the double murder, we haven't found any links that link into that. I got a pretty good briefing from the chief there, or the captain of the homicide division. I heard maybe some rumors, but I don't think we found anything that ties into that. At least at this point, I'll say at least at this point. Tim, I appreciate it. Thank you. Keith, been on so-called assault rifles and high-capacity magazines. Neither band stopped the shooter. In Buffalo, from doing what he did in that store, there are over 33,000 gun laws in the books at federal state levels. New laws will change nothing. The laws in the books need to be enforced. So, Keith, matter of fact, when I was in San Francisco, I got to see the chief of police in Buffalo. He gave a pretty detailed description about what had happened, and I'll tell you what stuck out to me. Half of his presentation was on when he arrived, where he parked his car, and the tactical movements that he did, right? But the other half that he talked about was that this had been planned for a long time, and things that he was doing, comments he made to friends, some stuff on social media, things he was buying and purchasing, that to me it should have sent off some flags. Now how does that coordinate? I'm not exactly sure. Do I have a better way of doing it? No. But were there some signs from what he talked about? Absolutely. Things that were done in school, things that have been said. And I'm not saying anybody dropped the ball. I'm just saying there were a lot of, you know as well as I do, Keith, in a lot of situations where we have mass shootings, there's a lot of flags that come up that we go back and look at. It's not Monday morning quarterbacking. It's how do we take this incident and learn from it, right? We changed our whole philosophy on responding to mass shootings after Columbine. And we see the debates going on down in Texas about what happened there, and I'm not casting one either way. But I think it's got to be in the middle. I think that we've got to service those that need service. I think we have to hold people accountable, and I think we have to have sensible laws that attach to all three. And we've got to be able to communicate and not just have, it can't just be, well, it's got to be this way or it's got to be this way. I think it's going to be a mixture of things that help us to address gun violence. Nicole, I appreciate that. Young adult police commissioners, we had a lot. I'll tell you, we one of the things we did with our students, we set them in a room, freshmen, sophomore, junior, and seniors. We set them in a room with our police recruits that are going to graduate in August. Some of them aren't much older than those high school students. And we just had conversations about why do people partake in gun violence? What is it? And I'll tell you, a lot of it came to bullying, peer pressure with social media, and rift between individuals, and it just escalates. There was some really, really good conversation. I learned a lot. I learned as much from those kids, those students, as they do from us. And it's just really good to get their input. Kim's great point. Better background checks, maybe more thorough. I hear you. Karen, amen. I appreciate that. Gel pellets. Oh, gel pellets. So yeah, I've heard of some of that. I think we might even had an incident maybe a year ago of something that was like that. So I've heard of those, but the bigger ones that I hear about are the actual ghost guns that are hard to trace, that don't have some of those markers. But I when you tell pellets, I'm with you. Karen, I think we need cops walking the beat. If we see the same officers day after day in the community, we get to know them, would be a great help. I know you're shorthanded, but it's something to consider. Karen, I think you're dead on. I think you hit the nail on the head. Walking beats do work, building relationships, maybe selecting neighborhoods that have that we're seeing trends in violence spike. It does come down to a manpower issue. Are we able to staff that and keep it consistent? I don't want to just do it one time a month. We selected 3 neighborhoods in our city where we're trying to put selected enforcement, meaning walking when it's warmer, bicycling, vehicles. But we selected a neighborhood in the north, a neighborhood in the central, and the neighborhood in the south part of our community that we focus on all year long and try to have a decrease. I know we can't put walking beats everywhere, but you can move them around, and I think it's a great tool. It's a great community relationship builder, and building again those interactions, those relationships can really decrease crime. It's a great tool. Nakia. Ms. Brumfield, how are you? Thanks for being here. I recommend people joining a community group that work close. Ms. Brumfield, that is huge. You know, communities taking back their neighborhood is a great start. It sends a strong message to individuals that are thinking about preying on individuals that live in that community. And again, I'll tell you, it decreases greatly. Communities that get involved and notify the police and aren't going to tolerate those acts. But when you allow people to come in, you don't call the police, I'm just going to stay in my house, it doesn't affect me, and that's fine until it does. And I'm telling you, acts of violence affect the whole community, not just the family, not just the suspect's family. It affects the whole community. I saw that when we walked last week, Thursday, in the Killing Creek neighborhood, as numerous and numerous citizens gathered, business owners came out and just shared their love for one another and their concern for their community. So, Ms. Brumfield, that's exactly, you know, neighborhood watch is a great thing. And I will tell you now, if citizens want to get together and do walks in their community, you let us know, and I will make sure that we put an officer with you. I may not be able to be at every one, but I think that's valuable. I think you build relationships that way. I think it sends a strong message. So if there are citizens who want to get together and walk a community, we can have officers attend those things. That's great. That's a great idea. Jacob, are you aware that there is a public police radio? I'm not sure if that's illegal or not, but it just seems silly because it discusses officer location. Yeah, so James, I think what you're talking about is an app sometimes that can pick up radio traffic and transmissions. I will tell you, pretty soon our radios, we're moving to encrypt them, which will make that much more difficult. I talked to the chief in Virginia Beach about the same issue. So yes, I am aware of it. It is dangerous. It can be very dangerous. People interjecting themselves or going to a scene. So yes, very much aware of it, and then we have steps coming up to try to address that. A lot of it deals with encryption. Karen, yep, thank you, Karen. Deborah. So Chief, earlier I told you we were going to try to come on Saturday. It should be pretty safe. Wait, I told you we were going to try to come on Saturday. You talking about the community day, Deborah? I hope you do. I'd love to see you. Please come out, bring your family or your kids. There'll be a lot of fun things. There'll be some good hamburgers and hot dogs. The Feel Good crew is going to be there. They're tremendous. They're going to cook for us. But it's just good to get out, interact with one another, talk a little bit, and just have good fellowship and friendship together. There'll be a lot of vendors there, giveaways and information to pass out. So yeah, I hope you're there, Deborah. I'd love to see you and interact a little bit. That'd be fantastic. Karen said, we got to catch this guy. Those men did not deserve. Karen, I completely agree. And I will tell you that we're using every, not only information we have here, but federal resources as well. We've talked to the FBI and the ATF are working with us and doing some things. So yeah, it's important. This one is going to be challenging. It's got some challenges, but I believe, I have faith that we will determine who this individual is. And my hope is that his heart gets the best of him and that he turns himself in. That he comes in and lets us know this is what happened and why. But we're not going to stop. You know, it's too much at stake not to. We have to try. We have to, and I will tell you that the detectives, some of them didn't even go home for about 24 hours. They just kept pushing that first 24 hours. What leads can we develop? That's one of the reasons. The next step was to release some footage that we saw today, and hopefully we'll see if we get some calls in. I know there's been some tips that came in earlier. We have to process each one of those, but the detective on the case is outstanding, and we'll just continue to push. Right, we're not going to quit. Karen, I really appreciate I skipped Deborah. I would love to see more police departments do more of the things that you do. The lives of community interaction they carry. Well, Deborah, I appreciate you getting me choked up on screen, Deborah. Scroll up just a minute. Let me see. Deborah, thank you. Karen, I appreciate that. No, it's important. I wasn't sure about the social media stuff at first, but we've been doing this now for a couple years, and Kelly King and her team really talked about this as a way to reach people that may not be able to come to community meetings, and they can look at it at different times. So I'm sold. I was wrong. I didn't know that many people would want to chime in, but I think it's very, very valuable, and it's just a good time to interact. I want to try to be as open and transparent as I can of what we're doing and things that I can talk about. So I appreciate that. Linda, good evening. Bless you and all. And thank you. Linda, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. That shoot small gel pellets. Oh, Keith's talking about the gel guns. All right, yep, we hit on that. Okay. Am I reading that right? There's still 26 other comments out there?
I don't think so. I think that's all that we haven't really gone by,
Okay.
because I checked earlier.
Yep. So I was just talking with Kelly. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing a lot. And again, I'll look at these as when we get off. I'll go back and look at these to see if there's any I missed. It's not my intention to miss any. It looks like it's flowing a little bit better than it did this afternoon.
Okay, we're right here,
Deborah, with my mom being certain I had dementia. Oh, no, Deborah, I know. We talked about that earlier. I totally understand. Right under Deborah, who do we have?
Deborah had another comment. It's those out there in cyberspace.
Oh,
Said,
above that?
My daughter
The other thing is my daughter's 14. I don't allow her any social media. And she is okay with it because I showed her the data. You know, Deborah, I tell you what, I applaud you. There's a lot of dangers, technology and social media. I know it's a new way of life now, but there are things out there. So I just strongly stress that parents monitor what their students or what their children, their family is looking at, who they're talking to, and all kinds of ways, whether it's explicit pictures or comments. I've even heard stories of it talking about ways to hurt yourself and commit. There's monitoring that stuff that our kids are taking in is important, and reporting things that you see that might be threats or threatening to someone else or acts of violence is a key issue and component. Being engaged in what's going on in their lives, what's going on around their lives, who they're interacting with. So I applaud you, Deborah. I think monitoring social media is huge. Karen, where and when? So the community event we're talking about is this Saturday. It's also tied into the locations that we selected to focus on. Waldo Scott Center, 10 o'clock till 2. We'll be there. I think there's 25 or 30 vendors that are going to be there as well. It's in our southeast community off of Wickham Street. I'm really looking forward to it. But it's the C. Waldo Scott Center down off of Wickham in the southeast community. But if you can make it, I'd love to see you there and interact with you. And it starts at 10. I'll probably be there a little early, and it goes to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Lucy, how do we get notice that you will be doing this? A friend told me. So when you mean doing this, you mean the community walks or the Facebook chats? I can tell you this. Both of them are posted on our Facebook pages. I will try to do a walk every Friday. Regardless of the temperatures, right? I will try to do a walk every Friday. I usually shoot for 4, sometimes 4:30, and I just select a neighborhood. If there's a particular neighborhood that citizens would like to see me walk in, they can reach out to Facebook or message us or shoot us a call. Chief, we'd like you to walk in this neighborhood. We have a couple people who would like to meet you. I'd be glad to do that. Or I'll select some where I haven't been before. North, south, and central part of the city. It's important to move around and look at some neighborhoods, whether it's in Hilton or Denby, our southeast community, a central part of our city. It's just a way for me to get out and interact. And like I said, sometimes citizens will come out and walk with me. Sometimes they won't. That's fine. It still gives me an opportunity to interact with community, youth, citizens, and be in neighborhoods and see them for myself. So it's one of the things I enjoy. On the Facebook chat, that's always posted. I do one day a month. I always do it at 12 noon for an afternoon crowd or audience, and then 6 o'clock in the evening. And it's usually posted about a week ahead of time, a couple weeks ahead of time of when the next one will be. So, please take part. And it's just, I think it's important we can share ideas, information, and kind of catch up a little bit. And I think Nakia is saying the same thing, right? We'll just go down just a little bit to Ms. Brumfield. Go to the Newport News Police Department Facebook event. Yep, there you go. So Ms. Brumfield's sharing away also. If you look at the events on the Facebook page, it'll be there. Was there one above Ms. Brumfield? We set it up where the 31 can actually see the texts and calls. Oh, I think that's great, Deborah. That's very, very smart. You should give a class. That's really good. That's really good. Keith, I appreciate that, my friend. Thank you. Appreciate all that you do. Please be safe as well. I know we went over a little bit. I was a couple minutes a little behind, so if there's a couple more comments, I'll be glad to address them. But I again just want to thank you all for sharing a little bit of time with me this evening. I think it's important. Gun violence is a real issue. It impacts us, all of us, not just the victims and the victim's family. It impacts all of us. And I think that together that we can decrease some of the events, some of the incidents that we're seeing, that we're sharing information, that we're being active. Robin, thank you. I appreciate that. That all entities get involved, that all residents get involved. And even look, this is directed to our students, right? If friends or classmates are posting things on social media that you see, I'm not asking you to stand out in front of your school and holler with the bullhorn. Police department, this is what I heard. But I am asking you to reach out to us, whether it's through your SRO or just calling 911 and talking to someone in communications that, hey, this is what we're seeing and this is what we heard. Because I'm telling you, gun violence affects all of us, right? And you all are very, very valuable to this community. You all have bright futures. I went to every high school graduation this year. I got to see every high school graduate. I saw students walk across that stage, and I heard about some that I had talked to prior, what their goals were, where they wanted to go. And I'm telling you, you guys matter. You are our future. But you've got to help us. You've got to work together that we protect each other, right? That you protect other classmates. I guarantee you that students in Texas wish they had some that may have spoke up sooner. I guarantee you that individuals that have come out, well, I know he made these comments or she made these comments, that wish it would have spoke up sooner. It's important. And you guys play a vital role, and we need you, right? To make this city better, we need you. We rely on our youth. I think it's important to bring you to the conversation and have you all engaged. So I just wanted to share that with you kind of directly from me. Got to catch this guy. Karen, thank you. I appreciate that. Carrie, you have a terrific city and within the 200% helping to keep the city. Carrie Cox, I appreciate that. Thank you. Diane, appreciate that. Thank you. Enjoy interacting and talking with you. Deborah, it's a great point. Silence does kill. Speak up, and it could be your family one day. Right, we never know, right? It's on somebody else's doorstep today, but it could be on ours tomorrow. Candace, if you see something, say something. Excellent. Those are all great mottos. So just stay vigilant, right? We're not gonna let this thing overtake us. We're not gonna give up and succumb to gun violence in our city. We're too strong for that. We're too powerful for that. I think we're too united for that. I think that's what sets us apart from some other communities, right? That we are working together, that we all see this as an issue and a problem, and we band together. So just continue to support one another. If you do see something, to say something, any small piece, I'd rather you call and let us look at it, and as opposed to disregarding it and thinking it's not important. You just never know. So I'm going to get off here. It's 10 after 7. I apologize for holding some people over, but I really do appreciate the interaction and comments. I'll do this again next month. We have our community day at Seawaldo Scott Center down in the southeast community on Saturday, 10 o'clock. We'll be there. We got to have some great Juneteenth activities. We played in the soccer game against some youth. They ran us all over the field, but it was great interaction. I think we'll see more of that on Saturday, and I hope to see you there. Yeah, Deborah, billboards is another good idea of getting information out. I agree. It's a strong message. When you see that, it resonates. Again, thank you all for being here tonight. Please be safe. We'll do this again next month. I love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.